I think in this day and age, it's probably good to be allowed to be honest. And it's one of the sort of strengths I think we've got with MasterChef and whatever we do is that actually there had to be a time where people had to be honest. And I'm lucky enough to do it. And at first, I think when we were doing MasterChef, I was slightly criticised and people like sort of taken aback by it. But I think as we've gone on with the programme as well, there is this realisation that's quite nice to be told, A, if you can't cook, or B, if you're really good. Rather than this, we might be all right stuff, why do all this tension and drama? Just tell them they're good, it tastes great, or it's rubbish.
And you've been doing the TV for a while, but you've been cooking longer, and that's what I like about you. You're a proper chef. You're not one of these TV-created people.
No, I left school at 17, and much to my father's disappointment, went to a kitchen, worked in this little place of BYO, which is Bring Your Own in Melbourne, washed dishes every night except for a Saturday when I was lucky enough the boss would give me a kitchen porter to help me out. And really cooked solidly for 20 years before I sort of stepped out of my own kitchens. Smith's is a great restaurant. I don't profess to cook there. I don't say I'm the chef there. I don't try and get Michelin stars when I'm actually not there. I'm a trained cook who did, in Australia, you do a 4-year apprenticeship. So you learn to cook, and when you get your 4th year, you're allowed to go and step up and play the piano. And the piano is the stove. But until you hit your 4th year apprenticeship, you're not allowed on the stove during service. It's the old man's place is to play the piano. So it's quite an interesting thing, really.
And it's an interesting analogy you use. Do you feel it's like that you wouldn't stand in front of an audience playing the piano unless you knew how to do it?
Well, you'd have to be pretty crazy, wouldn't you? But, I mean, there are a lot of people out there now who are somehow or another able to get away with the idea of, I'm a chef, but yet their qualification is not necessarily recognised anywhere else in the world except for the fact of maybe being a television talent or being a performer. I'm trying to think of the guy's name who presents Ready Steady Cook.
Ainsley Harriott.
That's him. He's not qualified. He's not qualified at all. I mean, he might be a really good cook by now, but actually, if I said to him, could you make me an onion clout and make me a proper bechamel, and then make me an estofade and make me a demi-glace, he would probably sit there and go, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm really lucky, as an Australian, I have a qualification which is recognised in Switzerland and France. So I can go and work on them. But there's a lot of people out there who can't.
So tell me why you're here now then. I mean, I don't hear anybody saying Australian food is world-renowned. The French seem to have stolen that, maybe the Italians, a bit of the Spanish. You chose to come here. Did you decide that because this is a place where you can cook good food?
Well, I've got to say, I think when I left Australia in 1990, I think Australia was doing amazing food. I still think they're pretty incredible. And the great thing about Australia is that Australians don't consider food as sustenance. It's not about fuel. Food's about being sociable and having fun, and a smile on your face, stand in the backyard, smoking your hair, having a beer and talking to your mates and have a barbecue. And, of course, doing the same thing, whether it be, beautiful food or whatever it might be. It's a sociable thing. I suppose the appeal for me when I got here in 1990 was there was a huge amount of work to be done, and I love hard work. And the idea of getting stuck in and saying to the British public, it doesn't have to be an occasion. You don't have to dress up. You don't have to go to a restaurant and be looked down the nose by a snotty guy in a funny suit who says to you, are you sure you want to drink that, sir? And then charge you a huge amount of money for food, which, frankly, it was rubbish, and you cook at home a lot better. I just thought there's got to be a way of doing it. And I met Terence Conran, the grand man of egalitarianism. Regardless of what they say about Terence, I love him. He brought great food to the masses, big restaurants, which many people criticised. But you know what? Stuff them. I think we've done a great job, and there's been a food revolution. And it's not about occasion anymore. It's about people going out and enjoying good food and not being ripped off.
And talking of the ripping off thing, I went to a very nice restaurant, which I love. One of my favourite things is the prawns, the langoustine. £18 for one. Can you possibly justify to me how they can charge me £36 for 2 langoustine that cross beautifully? And I know they were deep fried in the most wonderful thing, and I know they were longer than the average prawn.
It's nuts. It's wrong. And you know what's really wrong about it? Those poor guys who, up in Campbelltown on the coast of Scotland, who are going out and buying those prawns, are probably getting 40p each if they're lucky for them. But you know what? I've been in restaurants sometimes, and I get the bill at the end, and I think to myself, I've just been smacked on the bum. It's just not right. One of the things I think the general public also don't understand about a restaurant, and they shouldn't be ripped off, is that almost 20% of everything that you pay in a restaurant goes straight to the government for VAT. So if I'm charging you 10 quid, actually I'm getting 8 quid back. There's the rest is going to the government, so I've got a real big issue, and I've got to try and make money, and that's a bit of a bottomly pops.
So you come over here, you set yourself up, you get respected. How do you do that? Because there's a lot of people want to be top chefs.
Well, I think the thing is, it's sort of like anything in the right place, right time, lots of hard graft, lots of practice. Who was the famous golfer who said, the more practice I do, the luckier I get? And I think that's absolutely right. The more practice you do, the luckier you get. I do work hard. I think I have a bit of a sense of humour. I think that I'm not concerned about, how the public really treat me. I don't like social gatherings. I'm not very good in front of people. I like the idea of this. You and I having a conversation is fantastic. The idea of being in front of a camera is fine. I've got my studio audience. I've got no studio audience. I've got, cameras. The idea of standing at a party with 40 people scares the living daylights out of me. Absolutely. That's why I became a chef, because I wanted to go and hide in the kitchen. That's why you become a barman, because you want to go behind a bar. It's not because you're a great social person. So the word chef and being, presentable is also quite a difficult thing to do, because it is hard work. You burn yourself, you cut yourself, you stink. I mean, I caught the tube home, when I was at Le Pont and years ago, and I remember doing the fish section with this guy Mark, and the people kept getting off the carriage because we just stunk. The two of us were disgusting, and for years the ingrained smell of fish and nasty. Anyway.
So how did you meet your first wife then?
How did I meet my first wife? I met her in the Gold Coast in Australia, actually, and I made her a gin and tonic and put lemon in it, and she was a pom. And anyway, she's still demanding, and my second wife's far nicer. Although the first one cost me a lot more.
Exactly. They don't like stinky men, do they?
No, not really.
At least you've worked that out. So then you go on to create these restaurants, and you've now got 3 in London, is that right?
Well, I've got one big restaurant with 3 restaurants inside it, and then I'm building another one in Spitalfield Market. So I've got Smith's, we've got top floor, we've got the dining room, and then we've got the ground floor, so the Greasy Spoon and bar. That's big gaff. It's got 150 staff in it, and I love it. It's my sort of the thing that makes me smile each morning when I get up, regardless of how rubbish I feel.
But it's not fun, that's business, because you've got a great responsibility to the people you're employing, to the customers you're serving. There's a lot that goes with it. It's not just as simple as making a sandwich, is it?
No, it's not. But the thing is that unless you actually look at it in such a way that it is fun, it's going to become really difficult for you to be able to get on in life. And, there has to be a sense of fun. I had this interesting thing happen to me on Friday. I have a lot of staff, and I give them a drink after work, and I feed them, and I really look after them. And a number of them decided to take the mickey on Friday night. And they stayed behind and they drank my booze and they kept my bar open until 4 o'clock in the morning with break dancing on the floor, which is all nice, all on CCTV. So I've just asked them to come to a meeting on Tuesday, and I'm going to ask them to take their own responsibility. And I'm not going to sit there and try and be lecturous about it. I'm not going to do anything else like that. I just want them to realise that they too have responsibility. And I have responsibility to them. But if I go in there all guns blazing, then I'm going to lose them. I don't want to. I think they're nice people. And they made a mistake, and everybody's allowed a mistake in life. So, that's the way I try and run my business.
How disappointing is that to you, though, when people let you down? Because nobody's ever going to care about your business as much as you do.
Well, I'd hope that they do continue to care about my business, and that's what upsets me more than anything, is that some of the people who are responsible decided that they were going to have a bit of a muck around. And you know what? If they had have gone out and they had said to me the day before, can we just hang around and will you give me a box of beer? I would have gone, no worries. But they didn't. And it upsets me a little bit. In fact, so much so that I was having a chat to the HR guy or girl yesterday, and she said, "You're emotional about this." I said, "Yeah, it's just really disappointing because I love my guys. I love them. They're brilliant, and without them, I'm nothing." So I've got to think about that as well. And restaurants are about people. The restaurants are the people that go to it, the people that work in it, the people that love it, and the people that look after it. And if that doesn't happen, then you might as well just pack up your bags and go home. Just go.
Are they a bit like your kids as well, where you feel just a bit let down by them? Is that what this is about?
Well, that's a really interesting comment, because that's what when I decided how I was going to deal with this, I actually thought about my children and thought about myself as a kid, and what was the worst thing? The worst thing wasn't being told off. It was standing there thinking to yourself and making that conscious thing in your mind, I've done something wrong. Oh, God, I'm responsible for this. Because if you just shout and scream at your kids, they're like, yeah, whatever, Dad, see you later. And of course we all did. You got the first hickey, yeah, whatever, Dad, was fun. And now, of course, but if you stand there and say, do you realise what you've done is wrong? You have to suddenly, and you swallow, and that sinking feeling in your stomach and all those bits of emotion that go with it. And I think that's really important, that we take responsibility. And I don't think there's enough of us, actually, in my political, round of who take responsibility.
So is it now a case that you'll give them a chance, but you don't give them a second chance. How many times do you allow yourself to be walked over?
I don't think they'll do it again. I really don't. I think they love their job. I think they love where they work. They know that they've done wrong, and they will take it. I think the fact they'll take the responsibility.
Maybe I could send them this tape. You won't even have to talk to them.
No, I'm going to talk to them. I want to see their faces. I also want to see their faces when they watch the CCTV footage of the two of them breakdancing in the middle of the floor at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's beautiful. Oh, yeah, it's beautiful.
You've got to put that on YouTube.
No, I'm not allowed to. CCTV, you see it. I've got to be careful. Public property, all that sort of stuff. Would never do that. Yes, anyway.
All right. You've got this wonderfully illustrated new book called Beef. Yes. And when I read it, I thought it was your beefs about life and you're going to rant and rave about your thoughts on politics. But no, it's actually about beef and what you can do with it. And at this time of the credit crunch, which I'm hearing all over, you wouldn't presume that beef would be the cheapest and the most economical of foods, but you prove it is.
Well, it goes back to basics, doesn't it? The fact is that if you're a great cook, I probably learnt a lot of my basic cookery way before I started being a chef, and that was my grandmother. And she made great pies, great stews, great braises and everything else. And to be fair, we lived in suburban Maitland, which was a little town in New South Wales. We didn't have a lot of money when we were growing up. She had chooks down the back. She chopped wood every single morning to fire the stove. Without the stove lit, the hot water didn't work. 3 of us shared a bath every night because we didn't have a lot of hot water. All that sort of stuff. We used to huddle around a candle, and one day she lit it and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, but the thing is, actually, beef is economical if you're going to use the whole animal. And what happens in this great nation, the hotels and the restaurateurs and everything else, they take the prime bits, the sirloin, the rump, the fillet, they become very, very expensive. But if we go for the top side and the shin and all sorts of things like that, then brilliant. And the good thing about the book, hopefully if people guess it, is you've got to do something which I call discover the cover. And the cover comes off, and inside the cover is all the beef cuts, and it explains to you what they're there for. And if you just take a couple of simple rules, the muscles that do all the work need long, slow cookery, and they're not expensive. In fact, they're really cheap in real terms, and they go a long, long way. And then the muscles that don't do any work, which are the ones on their back, are expensive, and they cook very, very fast. So there you go.
Let's talk about the people you've worked with. I've been quite lucky in the last couple of years. Gordon Ramsay, Jamie Oliver on this year. How do you all get on? Because it's an interesting world, isn't it? I mean, Gordon's not backwards in coming forwards with his opinions.
No, he's not. And, Gordo and I had a falling out very, many years ago, and I think we sort of have a sort of standoff respect for each other. He knows what I do. I don't profess to be a Michelin star chef, never wanted to be. I want a egalitarian restaurant. We fell out over something which was completely stupid, and really, to be fair, we say hello to each other and that's it. That's nice. Jamie, I don't know. I don't talk to him very much. Again, I had a little falling out. He decided to take over the first floor of my restaurant one day very early for breakfast, an impromptu meeting, and decided to just come in with his team and do a meeting in the middle of the floor. Didn't ask me, asked my staff to look after him. My poor staff running around. One girl was crying, and I just thought that's just not right. That's unprofessional. And really haven't had a conversation with him since. I've seen him a couple of times at good food shows. He blanks me, and therefore I don't have the time to worry about saying hello.
What did he think he was doing then? Why wouldn't he go to his own restaurant? Was it a compliment that he was coming to yours, or do you think he was just being difficult?
I've no idea. I don't really care, to be fair. I think the thing is that in my life I've got so much more that I can think about. I'm not really worried about it. And in a way, it's sort of this whole competition thing. It's crazy. I've got to concentrate on what I'm good at. And as long as I do that, and I look after my guys and look after my team, we'll be successful. As long as I've got, my beautiful children, then I don't really mind that much, actually. And, fame and fortune's one thing, but I think politics is another.
It is a thing of egos, though, isn't it? It does seem to me, Gordon, for one, loves to rile everybody else. He did that thing where he went into people's houses, finding other chefs' cookbooks and burning them and all of that stuff.
Well, I think the thing is, I'm the same. I got to say, I remember doing This Morning many years ago, and it was when really Gordon sort of changed his tact, and he wanted to be known. And good on him. I think it's a very, very clever way of doing it. The man is a clever businessman. Let's just not take that away from him. And he's very successful for a reason. And I think that's great. But he called me a plastic celebrity. Well, that's fine, but I can still cook. And when the days of celebrity go, as he will, when his days of celebrity go, he can still cook. And I think that's something to be applauded. And there's certain people out there who maybe in the world won't be able to do that.
So when you walked into your restaurant and Jamie was sat upstairs, what did you say to him?
I just asked him to come and talk to me for 1 second. I said, "What do you think you're doing?" You know, you've really upset my staff. I've got a girl downstairs crying who's really frightened because you've got a team of people up here. We didn't know you were coming in. We could have set you a meeting room. The first floor's closed. They've had to rearrange all the furniture for you. And you're sitting there thinking this is okay. I don't think it's okay. And, you know, I think I'd ask you and your team, please, really, really quietly, if you don't mind, to pack your stuff up and leave.
And he said to you?
He said, well, I thought that somebody had organised it. I said, well, that's not my problem. You know, your team, if that's what they've done, they haven't organised it with us. So I'm really sorry. Thanks very much.
Mm.
And I have to stand up for myself. Do you know that? I think as an Aussie, again, the whole thing about being honest, I want to be honest. And I'm not trying to be controversial here. I mean, the fact is that actually I think that if, you know, things go wrong, people cross your path, tell them. Because it's a lot easier to get over it long term. And maybe this will be, you know, enough that maybe one day, you know, he might come and apologise.
I don't think so, do you?
I don't know. Let's hope so.
Let's hope you don't keep blanking each other. You're two geniuses in your own way, and it's not nice. I want everybody to be friends. That's all I'm doing.
I don't blank. I say hello. I'm fine about it. I don't, you know, God, you know, we're all bigger and braver than that. We're not in the school ground. You know, I say g'day. That's fine with me. But, you know, I don't know. Who cares? Enough of this showbiz nonsense. Congratulations to you on the new book. I've loved talking to you, and I'm such a big fan. Masterchef that you've brought back is so original. I know it's an old programme, but you've done it in your own way, and it's fun, and everybody loves it. And this new book is beautifully illustrated. It isn't enough now, is it, just to say, right, this is what you do. You have to have it digestible. You have to have it in a way that people can understand it. Because we did get a bit up our own backsides in this country with food for a while, where actually the average person would never cook anything in one of those cookbooks. Well, really interestingly, I went and did a book signing in Bath the other day, and these two girls turned up. They were about 13 years old, and they had all my books. And one book I'd written in 1997, which was in Mezzo. I'd written the book, and she said to me, the recipes are a bit complicated in this one, aren't they? And I looked at her and thought, they are just ridiculous, aren't they? That you were trying to prove something then about a cookbook, when I think that hopefully beef, John Torode's beef, will stay on the shelves for a really, really long time. People will use it. I want it to be scarred and covered in gravy, because that's what it has, got gravy in there. And, you know, there should be bits of stuff spilt all over it. And, you know, then we look forward to John Torode's fowl, which will be next. Fantastic. Great to talk to you. John Torode's book called Beef is in your stores now. And Merry Christmas to you, and Happy New Year and all of that. And thanks for talking to us. Thank you very much.